I have just recently come out of the murky spaces of total AI burnout. So if you are yourself suffering from AI brain fry, in this video, I'm going to break down how you can come back motivated and energized and creative and somebody who you haven't even met before, so much more innovative, because I have walked through this path and there are specific things that I did to come out. So let's get started. The thing about AI that we have to talk about is that it keeps you in this loop. There's so much more output that you can create because of AI. Things that would have taken you hours now takes you minutes. Things that would have taken you days now just takes you a day, if that. Now, raise your hand right now if you have Google Docs just filled with content ideas that you haven't even looked at in so long, or course ideas or whatever, right? Like, just because we have so much, we're able to quote unquote create so much, and now we're just kind of sitting on this gold mine of things that we're not even acting on. But the reason why we get stuck in this productivity loop is because of the amount of time that it takes us now to do things versus before, and that creates that dopamine, like, oh my gosh, I just did this thing in minutes, let me do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So you try to keep with that output, right? Like you just can't stop, won't stop, but that constant dopamine hit after dopamine hit is so detrimental to health, and it's just so hard for you to disconnect. And the other thing is this dangling carrot thing that AI is doing now. It asks you, would you like a version of this that is more premium or speaks directly to your ICA or will be more prime for sales or whatever? And it's, instead of just telling you the one thing that you want from the get-go, you keep having these interactions with AI. And honestly, something that would have taken you maybe 10 minutes to do, now it's taking you an hour, because now you get stuck in this perfectionist loop. You can keep optimizing that piece of content or whatever, and you keep optimizing for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then by the end of it, you're so burned out, you're so tired, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I have this really cool thing that I worked on, but now I have no energy to do anything with that. And on the topic of AI draining your energy, have you ever listened to a podcast or watched a video or maybe like a YouTube short or a reel or whatever, and you're like engaging with it, only to realize that what you're watching is AI and it's not even real? And people are not talking about this. We spend so much time trying to figure out, like, is this real? It's not. Is it AI? I don't know. Should I be concerned? I don't know. Like, there's so much stuff just made up right now. And of course, AI is flattening your originality and your creativity, because think about a time that you worked on this piece of content with AI and you thought it was so good and so edgy and so different in this angle that you never had thought about before. And then you post a piece of content only to realize that a couple of days later, other people are also creating content using the same angle, not because they're plagiarizing, but it's because everybody's going to this one source, this AI, and it's creating the same thing for everybody. And we think we're being so creative and different and like never seen before, but actually everybody's doing it. And even in the other people's content, everybody's content has the same cadence, it's written the same way. It is just flattening us as a human species. The other day I was thinking about how we're turning into Brave New World. This was a book that I had to read in senior year in high school, and we're living it out right now, and it is such a scary place to be. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. There's so much that we can do to get back our creativity, and I'm not suggesting here that we stop using AI entirely. You can still use AI, but there's a better way to use AI than just depending on it for everything. So I have done quite a couple of things that I want to share with you, and this have been super helpful. I have spent a lot more time in nature, just laying down on the grass, looking up at the trees, watching birds. Spending more time in nature has been so helpful in order for me to get back into my body, into myself again, and just disconnecting from this digital space. I have also spent a lot of time reading fiction books. Now, I am a homeschooling mom, so like reading out loud is a huge part of our curriculum, but reading books, Narnia, Little Women, The Swiss Family Robinson, Pollyanna, Anne of Green Gables, and so many others, I have made a point to read more to my kids, because these books are full of magic, really. The rich literature, the words that were used that we don't use anymore. It's just so good to go back in time, in a sense, and read these books that paint a different picture and really require you to use your imagination. Being able to pour myself more and more into classic literature and fiction has just been a game changer for me. I've never been a person for fiction, but this has been so good to just be able to sit down and read something and really let my imagination go wild without it being a self-help book or me trying to learn something. It's just pure imagination. That's it. The next thing that I started doing, and I'm actually going the process right now, is I started learning things that are completely outside the zone space, completely unrelated to AI, things that I just want to learn because they're going to deepen my creativity, like things that require my brain, my presence, my heart. So those are things that I'm pouring time into right now, and I'm super excited about that. I've also started doing Liz Tenuto somatic exercises programs. I am in her Pain to Power program right now, and it has been so good to just be able to release these tensions that I had in my body and to let go of so much that I didn't even know was there, and really forcing me in a way, not in a negative way, but forcing me to just be here in the now and present and be more in tune with my body. So somatic exercises has been such a game changer for me. The next thing was lots and lots of downtime. So there are times in my day, whatever time I have, because I do have 3 kids, but whenever possible, I'd like to sit outside. We have a hammock, and I just like to sit on the hammock and do nothing. I am not reading. I am not writing. I am not listening to a podcast or an audiobook or nothing. I am just sitting there, being present in the here and the now, but also just daydreaming and imagining and creating things in my brain and just feeling what that feels like again, without having to interact with the internet or AI or technology in any way, shape, or form. Another thing that I have done is simplify my business, letting go of team members, hiring different team members, like restructure my business so that I can really focus on the creative side of things and not have to worry so much about execution of things. So that has been a total game changer. And I also have stopped forcing outcomes, because at the beginning of this year, I had a plan of how things were going to look, how often I was going to launch, what programs I was going to launch when, and I have decided to let it all go, being able to release those outcomes and just know that my business is growing, my business is thriving, and I don't have to really follow this tight schedule that I had set for myself and just let things flow has been, again, another game changer for me, because it has allowed me to sit in the space of play and wonder and imagination and creativity that if I had just stuck to this very tight plan that I had before, I wouldn't be able to have this openness and this spaciousness that I now have. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be doing those things in my business. They're just going to look very different. Which brings me to the next point, that doing all of those things has invigorated me. I feel so creative. I feel so innovative. I'm going to be doing things in my podcast that have never been done before in this podcasting space. I'm actually going to be rebranding my podcast. I'm feeling super excited about this new direction that my podcast is going to be going and how that's going to look. And I'm going to be talking about things that I haven't talked about before. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe so that you can watch the journey and you can learn from it too, because in this age of AI and things changing so rapidly, and like quite honestly, like nobody knows what tomorrow is going to look like because of how fast things are moving in the AI space. But I'm super excited to be sharing the things I'm going to be sharing with you, and hopefully you're going to feel so creative and inspired, and that is going to open up more possibilities for you in your business and your podcast as well. Now, the point of this video is not for me to tell you to stop using AI, and I like to use this analogy that I thought about this morning, that first we had pen and paper, and then at some point came typewriters, and then later on came computers. But like pen and paper, I love my pen. I'm such an analog girl. I have always been an analog girl. I love my colored pens. I love my pretty notebooks. And all this to say is that computers, Google Doc or whatever, they haven't replaced pen and paper. And sure, the younger generations use it less and less, but we still use that. And with AI, we have to use the same approach, meaning use AI like an assistant to you. Don't use AI to replace your thinking. Even small things like writing an email, actually using your brain power, because I have been guilty of this. Sometimes I've been writing an email and try to have this point come across and not really getting it. So then I'll be going to AI to help me write this thing. And now I just sit there and I force myself to actually explain myself and communicate myself so I don't lose the art of communication. But the whole point is using AI like an assistant to proofread something for you, to give you a perspective that maybe you had missed before. And in a way, using it like a soundboard, but not to replace humans, but to say, hey, this is the idea that I have. This is the outline that I have right now. Am I missing anything? So not using to replace your thinking. So not using it to go as the source where you're like, I need ideas for this thing. No, actually, you come with the ideas and refine with AI, but you don't use AI to replace you and your creativity and your ingenuity, because that is what makes us human. We're made in the image of our creator, and as such, we are creative, and we have to really foster this gift that God gave us. And remember that if we don't use it, we're gonna lose it. So make sure that you subscribe so you can follow along the journey of how things are gonna go in this podcast. I'm bringing along some really cool things that, like I said, have never been done before in this podcasting space, and you're gonna be super excited. You're gonna love it. I know it, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.